We aim to produce an interesting show by giving a platform to many different views and perspectives. That's why the opinions expressed and statements made by our guests are theirs and theirs alone. They do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of our presenters, Due North PR, or the podcast itself. You're listening to True North, a regular roundup of business and community news and developments in Northland. Hello, and welcome to True North. Thank you for taking the time to listen. It's Wednesday, the 26th of November. I'm Peter Heath. On the show ahead,
I've spent 25 years promoting more women to come into engineering. And, I have moments of sort of going, has anything changed from 25 years ago?
I speak with Fiona Bycroft, CEO of Whangarei firm Naut, about the intriguing tale that saw a shy retiring schoolgirl from down the line become one of Northland's most colourful and extroverted business leaders. First though, a look at what's happening in business and community news across our region. The Infrastructure Commission released an update to its infrastructure pipeline last week. The pipeline is a national snapshot of all current and future infrastructure projects reported by councils, central government, and the private sector. According to the Commission, the pipeline now includes 12,000 infrastructure projects worth $275 billion, up from $237 billion in June. Infrastructure Minister Chris Bishop said the increase recorded in the pipeline reflected some better reporting around projects, but it also showed projects were being progressed. The country now had $181 billion worth of infrastructure projects with full or partial funding commitments or a confirmed funding source, up $56 billion from June, he said. However, informed commentators aren't convinced. Simplicity's chief economist, Shamabeel Ekwab, told BusinessDesk that the updated pipeline shows there is little certainty for the sector beyond the next election. He said the pipeline shows clearly that the projected pipeline of projects drops off mid-2026 onwards. He said there was little consistency or certainty around the projected pipeline of projects and that the construction infrastructure sector continued to face short-termism. The drop-off from the next election onwards looked even more stark when private sector projects were excluded. He questioned how infrastructure developers could plan capital investment or recruitment while what he called the blue-red lottery around infrastructure investment remained in play. We'll include links to the BusinessDesk article and the Infrastructure Commission update in the show notes. Community group Our Kerikeri is reporting good progress in its drive to develop a visitor promotion strategy to bring more tourists to the town and to the wider Bay of Islands area. It plans to position Kerikeri as the arts and artisan hub of the Bay, something it feels will differentiate the town from the other centres in the area. Brand design is now complete, along with the strapline, Kerikeri, the Art of Amazing. A website is under development with sections highlighting the different ways in which visitors to the town can experience its arts and artisan offering, the art of taste, the art of hospitality, the art of living, etc., etc. The group recently held a community meeting at which it outlined to local tourism and hospitality providers the logic of the initiative and the branding. Project leader Jim Makawao said both were extremely well received, with pledges of financial support from many. This support would help fund ongoing marketing and promotion work, Mr. Makawao said, aimed at building tourism traffic to Kerikeri and an incremental increase in visitor spend across the wider Bay of Islands area. The website and initial destination promotion work is set to be in place for this summer's domestic tourism season. Now, just before we kick into this week's conversation, a quick appeal from me. We're looking for a commercial partner for this podcast, and I'm hoping you might be able to help. It takes a ton of time and effort to keep this baby rolling with a new episode every fortnight. So we'd be delighted if there was anyone out there who might be prepared to join us as a sponsor. We're still very new in podcast terms, but our audience continues to grow. It would be lovely to find a commercial partner to share the ride with us. If that's you, or you think you know of someone we should be approaching, please drop us a line at truenorth@duenorthpr.co.nz. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Now, I'm speaking today with Fiona Bycroft, Chief Executive of the Whangarei-based firm Naut, manufacturer of electric propulsion systems for boats. Fiona is probably one of our most flamboyant captains of industry in many different ways. Barely a day will go by without her rocking Naut's trademark pink somewhere on her person. And indeed, there it is there. I can see it hanging from your ears and on your shirt. Good on you. Hi, Fiona. Have you always been a standout dresser? Oh, and just for the record, I've asked Vince Coccarillo the same question.
It's really interesting you asked this question. I was talking to someone I went to high school with the other day, and I said, "Oh, do you remember me from high school?" And he said, "No, like maybe I remember you being, like some sort of geek off in the corner." And I remembered one experience when probably Form 3 or 4, we were asked to line people up in the order of quietest to noisiest. And I went first, and I put myself in the middle. Someone else went next, and they put me as the quietest in the classroom. And this is something that stuck with me. And then I went to university, and I thought, I don't want to be thought of as the quietest person in the corner. And so, I went to university and decided to be a bit different. And I think people might put me at the other end of the line now by the sound of things, Peter.
Brilliant. Would you say you're a big personality? Are you as much of an extrovert as your wardrobe would suggest?
I'm actually, when I do my Myers-Briggs, I'm very clearly on the NTJ, but the I and the E, I'm bang in the middle. So
Okay.
I'm very much an extrovert. In that I do get my energy from people, but that only works if I've had enough solo time and filled my batteries up.
Hey, I am so glad you said. I'm exactly the same, right? People put me, "Oh wow, Pete, you're such an extrovert," but actually, there are times when really all I want to do is just snuggle up in a dressing gown next to the fire and drink a glass of wine and just read a book and be on my own.
Yep.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't
right
it? How?
with you, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so engineering, particularly marine engineering, is quite a conservative gig. Is it tough to be so flamboyant in such a conservative sector, or do you feel that it's helped you get ahead by differentiating you?
Yeah, look, that's a really interesting question. I guess I've gone into the marine sector really only in the last few years, whereas I studied chemical and materials engineering, and my career has actually been on heavy industrial work sites. So pulp and paper, steel, beer, and when I came up down at the refinery.
Gotta love working in a brewery. Nice one, Fiona.
I've got lots of funny stories about working in a brewery, but one of the things we had to do was beer tasting. So on a Friday morning, you go and do beer tasting, and they'd put tablets in to make the beer taste off. So what you're actually doing is tasting for off flavored beer. Now I like my beer, but clearly I can't taste the different off flavors. So sometimes on a Friday morning, I'd sort of drink a bit more beer than I probably should have. Yeah. Anyway,
that's good.
So I guess I've spent my whole career being often the only female in the room in heavy industrial work sites, and I guess again, in that sort of environment, there are absolutely men that promoted diversity and saw the value that a different perspective brought. And I guess I brought that different perspective just by being a female. And then there were other people that were like, I guess at the other end of the spectrum. And if I couldn't talk the blokey talk and do the blokey things, then I wasn't, I wasn't considered valuable.
Yeah, their loss. Their loss. Yeah, absolutely. So, look, it's so refreshing to see a female CEO crushing it in the STEM space, Fiona, particularly up here in Northland. How do we make this less of a rarity?
Yeah, look, that's such a great question, and I've been,
Geez,
yeah,
that's three in a row. I'm on a roll here.
yeah. I mean, I did engineering 25 years ago, and so I've spent 25 years promoting more women to come into engineering. And I have moments of sort of going, has anything changed from 25 years ago? But then I absolutely also have moments of seeing pockets where people have absolutely recognised the benefits that diversity brings. I think the stats show that actually by having a diverse workforce, and particularly at the board level, it improves profits by something like 30%.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's got a massive financial benefit by having diversity, and that's obviously not just women. That's one aspect of it. So whether as people recognise that actually they benefit personally, financially by having diversity, if that's the way it needs to be done, that's the way it needs to be done.
Do you think people get really caught up in the diversity thing as meaning principally gender? I mean, to me, diversity is about difference of opinion. I'm an immigrant, right? I
Yep.
bring a diverse perspective to
Yes.
boardrooms and leadership teams because
Yep.
I'm not a Kiwi. It's not necessarily about gender. It's really about perspective, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's about diversity of thought. And
Yeah.
I've actually seen something that was really neat about talking about a scale of diversity of thought and saying, and so it's scale from 1 to 10. And if your diversity of thought, and look, I'm not sure how it's measured, but across a group, if it's really small, that's bad because you're not considering all the alternatives. If it's actually too big, it's also not great either because you spend so much time debating things and don't actually get on and do it. So it's about finding that happy place where you've got enough diversity of thought, you're considering the different things, and then getting on and doing it.
And it's about giving those people with that diversity of thought the opportunity to express it and the confidence to express it. Because there's no bloody point having a room full of diverse people who don't feel able to speak up, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I was listening to another podcast this morning and just talking about the way different people approach things. And so I'm pretty good at thinking on my feet and getting my point across relatively quickly. But there's absolutely other people that need that time to digest things. And then they might come back a day later and go, hey, I've thought about that thing. And for me, I might be like, oh, goodness, that's well gone. But I've learned to go, well, actually, I know that person needs that. And so giving them the space either at the time to say, look, I want to discuss this tomorrow. So here's some information now for you to think about it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, good on you. Hey, so talking about how do we make females in STEM less of a rarity? What's the best way in, do you reckon? Apprenticeship or specialty degree? I'm asking because I've got a neighbor whose daughter is working as an apprentice in a traditionally male-dominated field, so male-dominated. She has them all wrapped around her little finger and she is crushing it. She's loving it. She fits in beautifully. She can swear and talk rugby along with the best of them. And she's absolutely crushing it. But she's not doing it through a degree. She's doing it through a trade apprenticeship. Do you think that there is one way is better than another?
Absolutely not. I think there's both the degree route, and I love the apprentice route. I mean, one thing that's really interesting about the example you just gave, is that I'm not sure what this woman that you're talking about, like what her natural style is. But as I reflect in my early days in my career, I did a lot to be more masculine, dress a different way, talk a different way, just to fit in. And I don't think that that is the best approach that we can take.
Yeah.
I think people need to be able to be themselves. And so I think, women that do tend to have more masculine traits may succeed in that environment because they fit in. They're considered one
Yeah.
of the blokes, and one of the blokes is given like it's a compliment. Now I'm like, I'm not a bloke. I
True.
want to be me and
Yeah.
be accepted and valued for being me, not because
Yeah.
I'm one of the blokes. And
No,
so,
it's a
yeah.
good point.
So I think there's a couple of things, that need to happen is one, we need to have a look at, or businesses need to have a look at what their recruiting processes look like. So I think it's a pretty well-known stat that, say there's a list of 10 things in a job list. Women need view it that they've got to be pretty damn good at 9 or 10 of them to be considered before they'll apply for the job. A bloke will go, oh yeah, I can do those too. I'm good, And so what are those barriers that are actually going to stop women from applying in the first place? Then the next part is what is the environment like for when those women come into that environment? And there is a whole lot of things that, do need to be considered for women. And that's not just if it's a predominantly male workplace, it's not just the workers in the workplace accepting the women. It's if they're working on job sites, those end customers accepting a female apprentice as well. And sometimes it is really hard for a single female to come into that environment. And so I really love the idea of making a particular effort of saying, look, we're going to employ 3 female apprentices just to get the ball rolling. And once the ball is rolling, hopefully it's away. But I'm actually very pro making positive bias choices to balance things out.
You're smashing it on LinkedIn. How do you do it?
That's look. I went. Someone put a challenge up on LinkedIn and said, if you want to do things on LinkedIn, let's have a bit of a challenge and get into posting every day. And look, I think having sort of a target of posting every day really worked for me. And then I missed one day, and then I missed a few days, and now it's probably been a week since I've posted. And it's really interesting because, again, Queenstown and LinkedIn has been massive for us with the amount of connections that we've received since putting our demo boat on the water. And so, there is really value in there in posting. But when you're posting every day, it kind of gets to the point of going, is this interesting stuff that I'm
I wanted to ask,
or am I just doing it?
I wanted to ask that. Different people have so many different takes, and they've all got hot takes because nobody knows what the algorithm wants, right? So do you reckon the algorithm demands a degree of personal bearing of the soul? And how comfortable are you with that stuff? Because I'm really uncomfortable about it, but only because I wonder how judgy my clients and professional contacts would be.
Yeah, I guess one experience that I've had, which my partner and I decided to be very vocal about, is that my partner got bowel cancer, stage 4 bowel cancer, and we decided we're going to struggle to deal with this without people knowing about it, and therefore being able to support us. It's going to impact work and family and friends. So let's just put it out there. And we had a really massive positive reception to that about being really open about that. And so I guess that's something that has set me up to go, actually, people do value that realness and the human side of things. And so, interestingly enough, I've found that the posts that have done the best for me have not been work related.
No, they've been
And yeah, again, you
personal,
get
right?
those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then
So,
certainly people are frustrated and going, that's for Facebook. But if it's what people react to, then,
well,
why not?
the data speaks for itself, right? So,
Yeah.
where do you think the line is between authenticity and throwing the kimono open a little too widely? Do you think Northland's ready for this stuff? Because I am, you are, lots of people we know are, but I don't know. I just get a wee sense that Northland perhaps is a little bit not quite ready for this kind of stuff. What do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure about that. I guess what's interesting about LinkedIn is it's a global community, isn't it? Like, I've worked overseas enough that I've got heaps of connections from overseas, and so I'm not thinking about it, I guess, from a Northland perspective. And I've just gone and done it. And look, yeah, I can't answer your question, Peter. I'm going to have to ponder on that.
There you go. I just thought I'd throw it in. So listen, Fiona, what's your story? When did you arrive in Northland, and what brought you here?
Yeah. So my last two jobs actually had been in Australia at the brewery, then followed by 18 months over in China at a pulp and paper mill that was starting up. And then my partner and I came back to New Zealand. We were both out of work, and just went, where are we going to go? We both had a really strong connection to Whangarei. So my grandparents used to live here, Joan and Russell Cook. A few people do know them. So anyway, they'd purchased a beach house out at Whangarei Head sort of 60 odd years ago. So my whole growing up, this was where I came for summer holidays. And my partner had been born over at Dargaville, and spent a bit of time in Whangarei. So we shifted here, and look, I'll be honest, I came here and thought, I'm not going to get a job that's anything like what I'm used to, but I get to live beside the sea.
Yeah.
I'm here for the lifestyle. It's going to be magnificent, and I don't care what sort of job I get. And then I started looking for work, and through the power of LinkedIn, I actually got a job pretty quickly, and that's when I started at Mackay. And since I've been here, I have been blown away by the companies that exist here. And what I think is really amazing about Whangarei and probably applies to Northland in general is how companies just quietly get on and do things. And then and a lot of us often don't know the companies that are around here.
I
And
know, right?
yeah,
That's part of the reason I've started this whole series. Is this we all just exist in these little micro bubbles, and we shouldn't.
absolutely. And I think, there's, like everything, there's good and bad about that. I love the humbleness of people that are here, but the downside of it is that we don't know what's here. We don't support each other. We don't purchase locally, and we don't help ourselves grow. So I do think there's a real opportunity that
Yeah.
we've got there.
Now you lead the Northland chapter of the of Advanced Manufacturing Aotearoa, don't you? What's that,
Yes.
and who's it aimed at? And presumably that's part of this whole drive of yours to start sort of bringing our commercial and industrial communities together and letting people know who's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So advancing manufacturing Aotearoa is
Yep.
focused on the manufacturing industry in New Zealand. So the manufacturing industry employs around, 10% of all workers in New Zealand, but accounts for around 60% of the export value from New Zealand. So the current government has got a focus on doubling exports. So if manufacturing accounts for 60% of the exports, obviously a lot of that has to be driven from the manufacturing industry. So the focus of advancing manufacturing industry is to actually drive and grow that industry and improve the productivity. The reason I got excited about it is that manufacturing as a sector is the second highest employer of Māori and Pacifica, and is also the second highest paying industry. And so the idea is that if you grow that sector, by default, you're growing the wages that are going into Māori and Pacifica. And that's something I'd certainly love to see, and is obviously a massive benefit for us here in Northland.
Yeah. So Fiona, True North is aimed at Northland business and community leaders just like you. What do you think that as a collective we're getting right here in Northland? And where do you think we need to change either our course or our thinking? Let's start with the things that you think that maybe we're getting right.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I really enjoyed which is part of my association with AMA, we held an event last year where the Minister of Manufacturing came up, and we worked really closely with Northland Chamber and Northland Inc. and EMA, and it was just a great event where multiple parties were able to work together, and we brought in or many of the manufacturers from the industry, and just. And one thing we made really clear of is that we aligned our stories that were going to that particular minister, and when there was other ministers visiting, we made sure that those stories that they all aligned, so that those messages that we're going back down to Wellington were really aligned about what was important for us. And obviously Northland Corporate Group did a really great piece of work to tell a story about what Northland is and the benefits that would come for that. So I guess as a region, we have to celebrate that, when we get together and tell that really good story, good things happen.
It's quite a compelling story when we decide we want to tell it, right?
Yeah.
When we decide we want to come together and tell that story. It's just a question. I mean, Shane Jones said just the other day, after it was announced that our regional deal was not one of those that was due to be taken forward in the first tranche by the government, that we still had a job of work to do in coming together under a single Northland umbrella and telling Wellington what it is that we collectively want and what we collectively want to achieve and how we can achieve it. So we've come to get it. We've certainly made great strides in telling that story, but I think we still have a way to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, if I go back to the point of, Whangarei, and Northland just quietly getting on and doing the job, the downside of that is outsiders, and in fact even insiders, don't even know that story.
Yeah, as a storyteller myself, I get really frustrated. There's so many great yarns out there. We're not very good at talking Northland up and saying, look at the successes here. Look at this industry that's kicking off. I mean, your industry with Naut, with electrical propulsion for boats. It's a groundbreaking industry. It's a really great story. And as a region, we're not particularly good at telling it. Individual companies are, but as a region, we're not particularly good at it. I think if somebody was to say to somebody, elsewhere in New Zealand, what's Northland, they'd look at us and say, well, it's all about poverty and crime and drug use and family violence and all of that stereotypical stuff. But we're really rubbish at telling the story about how good we are and what we're doing really, really well. So it's certainly a challenge. So, listen, I mentioned Naut there just a moment ago. It's forging a path in a pretty young sector, this electric marine propulsion. Is Whangarei really the place to be doing this from? And you're going to need some pretty skilled staff before too long. Are they going to be available in Northland, do you reckon?
Yeah, look, I think absolutely. I mean, the team that we've got now is amazing, and it's such a cool product that we're building that I have no concerns about bringing people in. Is Whangarei the right place to do it? I'm going to say absolutely yes for two reasons. We love being on the water up here. I literally drive beside the water for 30 minutes to get to work. It's a great place for a marine industry. The other thing is that at one point, Whangarei, and potentially Whangarei Heads in particular, had the highest proportion per capita of EVs. So we love the water and we love EVs. So let's put them together and do it here.
What's not to love? So listen, apart from Naut, what else keeps you busy? And what does Fiona do in her downtime?
Does Fiona have downtime? Yeah, I've got two sons that are both fantastic, and I love to pieces. I've also tried to pick up a few things for myself in the last year and a half. So 3 things that I've started doing: singing, Toastmasters, and parkrun. And I saw something the other day that said you should do something for the mind, the body, and creative. And I thought, tick, 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 without knowing about it. So, look, I'd love to do a little plug for each of them. So singing, I go to a private tutor, which is fantastic. Toastmasters, I go to Toastmasters at lunchtime in the public library at 1 p.m. It's just under an hour. You can come along. You don't have to get up and talk, but when you're ready to, it's fantastic. And Parkrun is a global 5K organised, free timed run. It's 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning and starts here in Whangarei at Te Maraupui Bridge.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much, Fiona. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, getting to know you a little bit, and all the very best for everything that lies ahead for you, and all strength to your elbow in your work to get Northland businesses to understand who we all are and what we can all offer each other. So all the best, and ka kite anō.
Ka kite. Thank you.
And that's all for today's program. Many thanks indeed to Fiona Bycroft of Naut. True North will return on the 10th of December when I'll be speaking with Michelle Ruddle of Rural Support about the steadily increasing pressures being applied to Northland's rural communities, the alarming impacts of these, and what can be done to manage ourselves away from a situation where fewer and fewer people see farming as a desirable career choice. December 10th will be our last episode for 2025, and we'll pick up again after the summer break. I'm Peter Heath. Thank you for listening. True North is an original podcast by Due North PR. To support our work and to stay on top of Northland business news and analysis, access the pod on Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Please do take that small extra step and subscribe, like, follow, comment, and review, as it helps others find the show. Please also share it with those who may not yet be aware that we exist. As the New Zealand media landscape continues to change, we rely on your support to continue doing what we do. Please let us know what you think about the podcast. Ask questions or make suggestions about topics and people we should feature by emailing us at truenorth@duenorthpr.co.nz. We do read every message.